This episode of the Batify podcast is brought to you in partnership with ministryleague.com. We would love for more people to discover this show, so please rate and review us on iTunes or your podcast provider. Feel free to share on your social media, and please do subscribe. Enjoy. Welcome into the Batify podcast, hosted by Dan, Travis, and Whitney. And we are coming into our second episode, and we just want to be able to give people the opportunity to share with the world, and maybe help other people who are going through difficult times in their life to look to the Lord and look to the church to find encouragement and hope. It's an awful dark world to live in without hope, and we just would love to use this avenue to do that, to be a light in that dark night.
So good to be with you.
Good to be here.
Always fun to hear you guys and be able to hang out with you for a little bit. So how did you see God in all of this as this all went along?
Well, I think the first thing is how quickly the news spread. And you see, I've always questioned, as a football coach, I'll ask the coaches some point every year, do you think they ever really understand what we do for them? The sacrifice and things of that nature. The same thing as a preacher, any job that you have, but especially one where you're serving people. And that's not the goal, obviously. You don't want them to have their relationship, but, just the immediacy of everything, and I mean, I've told Whitney, and this is probably bad attitude on my part, but I said, I know people who snicker at the thought of, well, I'm sending you thoughts and prayers. You're my thoughts and prayers,
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I've said that before and not followed through with
right.
it. But man, I almost immediately felt the power of prayer. It was just from the get-go. I had my bone marrow biopsy, and the whole time I'm, quoting from Romans, that Romans 8, the glory, I believe it's 18, I may be wrong, but, the glory that is to come, the suffering that we have now doesn't even bear mentioning with the glory to come. And so literally he is, drilling, feels like he's not drilling, but he's poking into my back, and that I'm sitting there quoting that verse to myself. But just so quickly, the reaction from people and the outreach, and, I've got boxes of cards.
I'm sure.
And the amazing thing is just how much, not only did it serve me, but, I had nurse after nurse who talked about how much they loved coming to my room because it was just so peaceful in there, and for peace to be in the room and them feel like they enjoyed coming in there.
Yeah, and that's pretty
huge.
Fantastic when you consider how many people they have served at that one location, and probably some of those ladies have worked at other places, and that your room was a place where they could. And I think they commented a lot just about how many things were on the walls and how many people had had visited and sent stuff, and just they were overwhelmed with the love of God and the love of His people. And so I know that you guys were.
Yeah. I mean, it's you get surrounded by things, and people send you things that you've said to them. I had one student quote me from Bible class weeks, maybe even days before, that your faith is, it's situations like this, and I literally said, you may be in a hospital room where the only way to save you is to pump you full of stuff that normally would kill you. And then you'll know, if your faith is real. And it's like, when people are quoting back to you, it kind of, not only does it help you and give you hope, but it also kind of makes you stubborn, and you're like, well, I got to do it now because I said it. You got to honor your own words. Hashtag, now the hashtag is the big thing. It was the impossible is nothing, and so I've got this huge poster on the window that, is the impossible is nothing, and it's signed by all my students. It's kind of put up or shut up time too. So.
Yeah, and I think that hashtag got even bigger when, people, CYC and churches around and everywhere else learned about it. I started seeing that, kind of crop up. So it became more than just your football mantra for the year. It almost became your theme for your struggle.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then the finish hashtag along with it, it's kind of, you got to finish what you start. And I mean, how many times did I say that football practice this year? I'm sure they could tell you, it's just over and over again. And, got to man up and do it. But
yeah. And I was really, just truly amazed with, there's certain people that you know and expect that you can count on in a situation like that. But then there are people that, them at some point in your life, but you didn't know that they would show up.
Right.
In a situation like that. And I'll call a name, Patty Flanagan. I believe he came and saw you every week, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Patty Flanagan. He's the minister at Owens Crossroads Church of Christ. And, knew Patty and his lovely wife, Melissa, at Freed Hardman when I was a student. And they have always just been the most kind, wonderful people that you could imagine. But he was so encouraging, and he came by to see us every week and spent a good amount of time every week when he would stop by the hospital. And I think he brought you toothbrushes and just all kinds of stuff. And that's just one example that I can come up with off the top of my head. But there were so many people like that
Dr. Alan Baggett, graduated from Marcel. I don't know that we met. If we had been in passing, and he was like that. He would come twice a week and bring me stuff and books and a catapult, which I put together. Well, I put it together, but I couldn't get it to stay together. But just things like that. People out of the woodwork. And even the male ladies at the hospital, were just astonished at the cards and things that I just kept getting every day. They were like, you're setting the record for cards.
Yeah. So God's people really showed up during the struggle in one way. I guess I have to ask this question. I know it seems odd, but were there any ways that God's people discouraged you? During this time? Because I know sometimes people can say stuff, people can sometimes come out with stuff out of the woodwork that you think, man, that's probably not helpful right now. But are there any things like that maybe you could warn people about? Maybe not, you may not have anything, but just kind of curious, anything like that would help us to know, hey, don't say that.
I can't really think of anything. And certainly there are those things, and I'm sure that as we delve deeper into the podcast and as we think, I might be hit with some stuff. But generally speaking, me, I like to have a good time, and people darken the door and come see me. But it's just one of those things that it's. There may be some people that may feel awkward talking about spirituality, I guess, to some degree. And that was just something that was like on the cusp of conversation, and so it wasn't really necessarily a negative thing, but, some people just don't like hospitals, and you could tell that they were kind of uncomfortable being in a hospital room. But, it's nothing really negative or anything I'd say stay away from, but maybe I should learn. So one time I think I shared too much information, and my uncle had to step out of the room for a second. So maybe it was me sharing too much, but nothing in this particular instance that I can think of.
Well, I think that's a win then. I mean, I like to hear that, obviously. So
I'll tell you what was a struggle for me in being in that hospital room and in that situation with Travis is he's always, I mean, I think he even said it himself just now. He's always been, the life of the party. And when a situation is dark or drear, he's usually a glass half full kind of person. He's always going to kind of look for the fun in a situation. He's definitely, if something gets heavy, if conversation gets heavy, he's going to try to lighten the mood some way. And, I've just never seen him at a place where he was anxious or really just in a dark spot. And so what was difficult for me was to see him like that and not try to just pull him out of it and make him happy or expect him to be the person who lightens the mood like he always had been, but just to let him just to let him cry if he needed to cry, or just to listen to what was bothering him. It was hard to just let him not be himself, to let him experience whatever
that's a struggle.
difficult
That's
things
a struggle for
that were
people in
going.
general, I think, is we don't like to see people struggle. So we always want to make people feel better. And I know that was one of the things when we went through counseling classes was, it's not really our job to necessarily make people feel better. It's going to be okay. You're going to make this. But, that you have to let them go through the struggle and experience it. And that's really hard for us.
Definitely. Yeah.
So, Travis, I wanted to ask you, like, during this struggle, I know we kind of asked something similar, but, we hear people say a lot, I felt God speaking to me. How do you feel like that God spoke to you guys through this struggle that you were going through?
I think the one of the major things that stand out to me was just kind of, he almost, and this goes back to the foster parenting thing, we had really struggled with a lot going on there, and we'll have another podcast to kind of focus on that. But, we really didn't know what to do. We knew that we loved them. We knew that we wanted to adopt them if that's what needed to be done. We had worked to get them to go back with their biological parents. That's always kind of the end goal you're shooting for. And we were kind of at that point where we didn't know what to do, if we should press harder, what should happen. And it was kind of like God was like, you're going to be still, you're going to, and it was like, he used that, I mean, I don't think you could say God gave me cancer, and I'm not saying that by any means, but it's literally like he's saying, don't waste this opportunity, don't waste this. And it was kind of like we were so focused on, and literally for me, it got to the point where I was like, I'm going to get through the next 15 minutes. Yeah. I'm going to, I'd wake up, I'd listen to some Lauren Daigle, I'd listen to Johnny Cash's, My Mother's Hymn Book. I would listen to scripture, and I would just kind of have that devotional time, that prayer time. And it was, I literally took every day in a 15-minute increment. And very few times I'm a person, one of my favorite songs is Where No One Stands Alone. I hate being alone. I don't ever want to be alone. And there was literally maybe 15, 30 minutes the entire time I'm in the hospital that I'm by myself. Yeah. And I can remember sitting there and my mind started doubting. And I can remember it. I mean, it literally, if you've ever seen Spider-Man, the Venom character, where it like climbs up the back, it literally felt like I was sitting there, and it felt like it was hours. And it felt like this darkness was just climbing up my back and over into my head, you know. And I can remember sitting there and going, nope, I know you're not going to let this happen, you know. And I don't even remember, like I said, it might have been 15 minutes tops that they were gone. I mean, they might have stepped in the other room, period. And it was like, I know you're not going to let this happen. You're not going to let these thoughts stay.
Yeah.
I just have to rely on you, and you're going to get me through this. And, you know, it was one of those times where the verses on the wall and the things that people had brought me. I mean, somebody brought me a rock, you know, and I just rubbed that rock. Or, you know, the verse from Exodus, you know, I think it's 13:14, where, you know, he's telling Moses telling people, you're gonna be still, and I'm gonna win this battle. You know, and if you know me, being still is not my nature. Not my strong suit. You know, I'm bouncing my leg right now. But, you know, in that moment of doubt and things where I began to try and be philosophical with things, you know, and I could feel it creeping in, he was there with me. You know, I didn't hear an audible voice. You know, I didn't hear those things. I'm not saying that those things can't happen and don't happen. You know, God can do what he wants to do. But it was just knowing that you're not, you physically can't see another human being in this room, but you're not alone. And you're going to, you know, I'm going to bring you through this, you know. And it was things that I needed to think through, you know, but it was, who was I going to submit those thoughts to, you know, take captive, you know, every thought. Just want to take a moment as we get ready to ask the final question to our guests to encourage you, if you are in the market or looking to create your own podcast, to look at Anchor. That's what we use. As you listen, you may be thinking, if these two guys can do it, then anybody can, and that's absolutely true with Anchor. The best part is it's free. There's plenty of creation tools that allow you to record, edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. You can also contact and have your guests on from different locations or right there in the room with you. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. It can be on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
I don't know what it would be considered, but I mean, tell the world really what you think about
Cadbury eggs. You mean snot-filled eggs, right? That's what I, you know, lovingly refer them to. Cadbury eggs, snot rockets, man. Those things are nasty. And they, you know, they have chocolate and peanut butter. And I know you're a fan, Ben, but I am not a Cadbury egg person, at the very least.
I mean, you know, they've got that goo inside it that just is so sweet.
Yeah,
but, I mean, you don't like the whole texture of it, right?
Through and through. Somebody blew their nose in it.
So maybe an unpopular opinion. I don't know. Maybe it is. So somebody can comment on that. Are they good? Are they bad? You know, what do you think about them? So anyway, I guess that's probably about it for this one. So, you know, y'all got anything to add to things tonight?
Whitney?
Do I have anything to add?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Sweet.
You got any thoughts on Cadbury eggs?
I'm not a fan of Cadbury egg. Nope. Now Reese, one of those Reese's cup eggs, those are good.
Man,
those
I love you too. So much more even now.
And the Snickers eggs are good.
Yes. I may have to go have one.
I can go with both of those for sure.
I will also say that, Whitney, if you guys didn't notice on the last podcast, we ended the show with some Matthew West. And for those of you that are like, Travis is being so mean, that Whitney actually said she thought that would be funny. So that was her idea.
Okay, any marriage counseling or anything after that.
No. So that's a little Easter egg for you folks who like Easter eggs in movies and such. So yeah, I don't know what we're going to end this one with, but I appreciate it, Ben. Appreciate it, Whitney,
Yes.
of course. Whitney may not even know what the A-Team is, but little known fact, I wore an A-Team T-shirt to our engagement pictures. So
that's awesome.
Is that really on Facebook? Our engagement pictures?
I don't know. I mean, it was right after we got engaged.
I mean, my mom just snapped those pictures in her backyard.
I think it counts.
That was a long time ago, and people didn't really do nice engagement pictures. So
okay. All right. Well,
that's awesome. Well, you guys rock, and I appreciate both of you, and you guys are such an encouragement to me, I know, to many, many others.
Thanks for being with us on this episode of the Batify Podcast. Be sure to download the Ministry League app and get all of our sister podcasts, along with all sorts of great ministry material at facebook.com/Ministry League. Until next time, look for us at the same Batify time, same Batify channel.